Welcome to the Great British Pinball Podcast, and here are your hosts Scott Rundle and Neil McRae.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a new year, it's a new episode, there's some new pinball machines, but sadly, it's the same two old gits that are doing the Great British Pinball Podcast, episode 20. Welcome, Scott.
Welcome, Neil.
How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Yourself?
I'm good. How was Christmas and New Year?
I ate too much, and I'm still trying to lose the weight from it.
Well, I don't bother doing that, man. It's never killed me. I always eat too much, but then I always eat too much.
How was yours?
Mine was good, actually. I'll be honest, so I'm not a big New Year guy, but
Right.
Christmas I love with the kids, and me and the grandkids were playing. I bought them a couple of Nintendo games, so we're playing Yoshi, and
Oh, nice. Okay.
and Theo got really into it, which was awesome. We had folks down, managed to survive without killing them, and was very happy to drive them to the airport and say bye. Yeah, no, it was good. It was good. I ended up having to go to Saudi Arabia last minute, which wasn't literally the week before Christmas.
Wow.
Which was a bit of a pain. But
What was that like on the flights? Was it busy in the airport and stuff?
it was busy because it was this, and I can't remember if I did the last. I can't remember if we did the last podcast before or after this, but I didn't realize this. But I knew this was on. But there was a big boxing match on with what's his name? Is it Tyson Fury?
With Logan Paul, that one?
Yeah, I don't know where, but there was some huge boxing match on. I knew them about the match. I'm not in the boxing really,
Yeah.
other than Rocky, but
Yeah.
but I didn't realize it was in Riyadh where I was. It was literally
Oh, wow.
in the building next to the hotel I was in, and I actually got a suite upgrade. So I was in a normal Bozo room, but I got upgraded to a suite, and I was like in this place that was the size of bigger than my house. It was fucking huge, and it was totally wasted on me because I'm literally in there just to sleep and do a bit of work, but it was rammed, and I had to come back via door. I couldn't understand why I couldn't get flights.
Yeah, I bet.
But the flights were ridiculously expensive. But it was a good session, and also Saudi Arabia. It's a beautiful country, amazing people, amazing food, but they're also big on gaming because it's a dry country. There's no booze, which for me is fine because I'm not a big drinker, as people may or may not know. For me it's fine, but they're big on coffee, which I'm not a big coffee guy. So they're also big on tea. So I was kind of on tea, but luckily, and the only downside. We're just having a debate where Scott was wrong. I'm a big Diet Coke fan, and they have Saudi Arabian-made Diet Coke that tastes awful, but they have Coke Zero, which tastes okay. I didn't try Pepsi because no one drinks Pepsi.
Everyone drinks Pepsi in this country. It's like the number one now.
Scott and I just discovered that he's a Pepsi drinker and I'm a Diet
Pepsi
Coke
Max.
drinker.
Pepsi Max.
So,
Yeah.
that's it. The podcast is over. This is the last episode.
Hey, if you could ever tell that we aren't further aligned on things, that shows it really, doesn't it?
So, and speaking of new things, actually, I forgot to mention this in the pre-roll. I understand you've got a nice new car.
Well, it's not new, but yeah, I do. Long story short, I was very vehemently against getting a Mini because my wife already has one, and I hated it because the trunk size is just higher.
Yeah.
But then we went car shopping and went into Kia, and look, I'm going to offend anybody who's got Kia now. Sorry, but it looked like milk floats, and I was just like, I'm not buying a milk float. They're just glorified milk floats.
Scott, we agree on something finally.
No, it's just like, I'm not having this. I don't care if it's got a 7-year warranty. So just walked in, walked out, went into Volkswagen, didn't realize it was the commercial dealership. And then so then as I walked out of that and we were driving down the estate, it's obviously full of car dealerships in the area.
Yeah.
There's the Mini area. And she's like, can we just go in there and have a look? And then next thing I know, I walk out of a car. So, yeah, that's it basically. But yeah, it's a Countryman. It's like a hybrid cross. I think they call it cross SUV type thing. I really wanted a hot hatch, but I was struggling to find anything these days that isn't an SUV. And they seem to have hot hatches are dying out. So,
well, it's also the fact that the whole electrification is killing them off.
Yeah, probably.
It's probably one of the downsides of, the Chavs and the Chavaliers. That will definitely end with the electric world where, you had a Vauxhall Corsa with an exhaust the size of the moon.
Yeah.
That's
the thing. I do like this.
Coming to an end.
Yeah, I do like this car because it's got that kind of chav exhaust where you turn it on and it starts burping is the only term I can use. But it's
burbles, the turbo burbles.
Yeah, turbo burbles. Yeah, and it's a JCW, so it's John Cooper Works. It's got 300 brake.
Nice.
I was like, yeah, look, it's a small enough car. I call it more of a Manny than a Mini because I just think Mini is just getting so big these days.
I know that is. Actually, I saw. I was driving. Actually, my wife pointed out. We were driving. I can't remember where we were going, but I think to Reading, and a normal Mini, the original one.
Yeah, like an original
SUV, the big SUV version.
Yeah, that's what I've got, and it dwarfs it.
It probably fit 2 of those little Minis in the space of the. I was like, holy shit, it's got big.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't want to be in a normal Mini for all the tea in China because they're literal death traps. I mean, they're lovely little cars. They're a lot of fun, but you have an accident in that, and if you survive, you're probably losing a limb or something. Anyway, on that happy note, let's move on. Car-wise, I am waiting for a car. I've got a new M5 in order. And
I did see a picture of it. It looked insane.
I cannot wait to get it.
What's the brake horse on that?
762.
Wow.
And then Chris, I don't know if you know Chris on cars. I forget his surname. He's had a Lona one, and he's kind of given it a thumbs up, which has made me even more excited. But I'm actually getting a Lona one. I've got one. I can still cancel it, which I'm very tempted to do because I don't like hybrids, and this is a hybrid. It's a plug-in hybrid.
That's what I've noticed. There's a lot, even in the newer cars, isn't it? I mean, I've noticed the engine sizes keep dropping down. Obviously, it's just forced measures, I suppose, as you say, around the change in solar and everything like that. Yeah,
we're being regulated into not buying the cars we love. Anyway, moving on. So let's.
My wife is calling me for one moment. Okay. You carry on doing whatever you need to do, and I will go take this. One sec.
Okay, so here's what we're going to cover. We're putting out a couple of interrupts here because today my gas boiler decided to go on the fritz, so I've got British Gas coming around. Anyway, Scott Sonny's away to assist his lovely wife Holly. So what we're going to cover. Obviously, we've done that. Happy New Year to everybody, and we hope you had a great Christmas and break. We're going to quickly cover pinball Christmas gifts, which we did a little bit in the last one. An update on our collections and what's going on. Scott's going to talk about his homebrew, which you can see in the corner of his screen right now if you're watching on YouTube. Then we're going to cover American Pinball briefly. We're going to cover a little bit of Evil Dead. We're going to cover Stern Dungeons & Dragons. So I went to Chicago this week, actually, to the launch of this game, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about Twippies, and then kind of events that are coming up, probably about an hour and 15 minutes worth of content. So let me start with my collection changes. Actually, not any changes for a change. I've bought an Elvira. It's in the club. So if you and actually maybe while Scott's away, I'll just ad lib a bit on the club. So we had a great tournament at the Turkey Fry Up. Wasn't as many people there this year as last year. And definitely tournament pinball, I believe, is in trouble right now. We've kind of it feels very fragmented, and that's going to be a challenge. And then coming up in March at the club is the UKCS, which is the kind of top players that have played in the UK 64-player tournament. It's going to be quite exciting. I'm going to be streaming it. I actually don't think I'm going to qualify, because most of the pinball I play isn't in the UK, and actually a couple of tournaments I did enter, I played like a chimp, so I didn't help myself. But anyway, I'm going to do a proper stream, be focused on that, so you'll see the art of the possible when it comes to streaming. I'm going to go full in. Other stuff in the club, we've got an Addams Family in the club now, so I know folks love that game for some mad reason, but Addams Family's back in the club, and we got Elvira and other games that have come in recently. I'm trying to think. We've got Jaws, we've got Nine Balls back in there, Quicksilver, and Pinball Champ, Tron. I mean, we just got so many games. It's actually hard to keep track of them. But please go visit the club. We need you to come and spend your money there. And I'm just seeing if Scott's ready, or he looks like he's looking for. He's not ready. He's not looking.
The guy is early, unfortunately.
Okay. For your
for the printer I was selling, which we can get into in a little bit. But you carry on talking. I am listening, Neil.
Okay.
And then I'll be back in like probably 5 minutes.
Okay, so what else is going on in the club? Actually, the other thing that's going on is the London and South East League. So a shout out to the UK Pinball League. I'm not a big fan of it because I think it's too laid back for my liking. But if you like kind of social event, play a few games around a few houses, look at ukpinballleague.co.uk. Di does a great job of running London and South East. It's at Medway Pinball on the 18th, I think. And yeah, on the 18th. And then it's at Matt Vince's in, I want to say, March. It's at Julian's, I think, in June. And then it's here at the Domino Arcade in July. Also, we got a big crate of low reflective glass. Been dealing with that this morning. Of about 30 slices have been arrived. It was always good to see it arrive and not be a box of diamonds. This, if you wonder what this is, it's basically low reflection. It's glass with a coating that takes out reflections, and it's a sort of basically glass we use. It's called Guardian glass. So that's the manufacturer of it, and it's the sort of glass they use in museums and jewelry shops, so that you can see, the exhibits or the fantastic watches as he waves his favorite Omega Speedmaster on the camera. It's that sort of glass, and it's beautiful in a pinball machine. And I work with this guy Zolt in Europe that can get this glass. So imported about 130 sheets. And 130 sheets of glass, you can just imagine how hard that is. It weighs about a ton, but it's here and people are collecting it. And I've got a few extra sheets. So if you're looking for a sheet, drop me an email to neil@domino.org. What else I cover while Scott's going on? Let me do a bit on up and coming events and tournaments. So I'm off to the US next week for Indisc, and I'm actually going to Vegas the week before for some work. There's a work event there. I'll be at the Pinball Hall of Fame for sure, just to see what's going on there. Whilst I don't rate the place, it is an amazing collection, and it'd be kind of rude not to be in Vegas and not go. And I'm hoping they might have the Blues Brothers game in, which actually has arrived. So my friend John Costin, Dr. John, has got Blues Brothers. He's promised me as an unbiased review as he can, which I don't believe in unbiased reviews. People are human. Humans are biased. There's no one that's unbiased. But having looked at it, he posted a picture. It looks horrific. The artwork is terrible. The only good thing about it is the translite, which has got Elwood and Jake on it. The rest of it looks absolutely hideous. And it breaks my heart to see such a good IP going down. So I'll also cover other events. There's TPF. A bunch of us going to TPF. Actually, a lot of Brits going to TPF. I think we might have about 20 people going to TPF, Texas Pinball Festival. It's probably the best gig for pinball players. The food's great in Texas. You can go shooting. You can do if you want to do something crazy, Texas is the place to go. I'm really looking forward to that. Some good stuff coming up. There's also Pinball at the Beach in the first week of February, which I am tentatively going to. I might not make it because I've got a work thing, but that should be a great gig. And the part reason I want to go to Pinball at the Beach is they're going to have Evil Dead there, and Scott and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Let me tell you a story that happened whilst moving my Metallica. So you can see behind me, if you're on YouTube, my Metallica and the mess beside Metallica, and the new Metallica remastered. It's an absolutely amazing game. Starting off, kicked it. Out of the park on every aspect of it. I got the topper as well, which looks great, but it actually feels too small for me. It's kind of weird. I think it should have been bigger. But anyway, so I took the game to the club for the launch party, which Stern gives us a bunch of swag, and we do a launch party. And on the way there, the coin box key managed to wedge itself in the trough of the game. And when I turned it on, the trough board and 3 of the light boards went. And it took me a while to figure out what had happened. I managed to borrow the trough board out of Star Wars in the club and got the game back up and running, but the lights were at the bottom end of the game were locked on. Infuriating. I've moved hundreds of games, hundreds of times, and never had anything like this. So make sure your coin door keys are well strapped in, or as I'm going to do now, take them out. Which is, it's kind of infuriating because there's one more thing to get wrong when you're moving pinball machines. Thankfully, when I was in Chicago, I managed to pick up the boards that I needed, and I picked up a few extra things. Actually, well, I wasn't planning on covering this, but I will, as whilst I wait for Scott. So we had, whilst I was in Chicago, I paid a visit to Pinball Life. A big shout out to Terry, Margaret, Scott, and the gang at Pinball Life. Pinball Life is an amazing organization. They're a retailer. They sell stuff on their website, pinballlife.com. But actually, a lot of what they sell, they manufacture themselves. So they make all sorts of parts. And I got a proper tour of Pinball Life from Terry, who's, I think, the owner. I think between him and Margaret, I think they own it. And what I was amazed by is how big Pinball Life is, the location. It's as big as Stern's old factory. And Scott, I was saying that whilst I was in Chicago, I visited Pinball Life.
Right.
And what's interesting, most people think Pinball Life just sells stuff, but actually they make most of what they sell. So whilst I was there, I got a big tour of their facility. It's huge.
Oh, really?
It's absolutely huge.
See, I always thought the rumor was that they got all their stuff from China and that, but they actually make it on site, do they?
So look, I think they get some stuff from China. Everybody does, right?
Yeah.
But most of the stuff that's metal or electronic,
yeah,
I think for the most part is made in their location. So, they were showing me, the machinery that they've got to make parts and do stuff. Like they've got a plastic cutting machine that'll do all the plastic protectors and stuff like that. But they are as big a manufacturer as they are a retailer, and they supply parts for the other companies. So I'm pretty sure Phil
Labyrinth is definitely Barrels of Fun have got a lot of Pinball Life parts in them.
Yeah, I know the Spooky guys do. I know. I think even
they're good quality parts, though. I tell you, like
they're superb.
I've got parts for my Homebrew from them, and they're really good for that as well. That they promote Homebrew quite nicely in their website. So
and that's where Scott came from with
Scott Denisi.
Yeah. So Scott Denisi works there. He's one of the designers of the stuff that they make.
Oh wow, okay. I didn't know that.
That's what his job is. And because I always thought, Craigie, why does Scott work in a shop? But it turned, but he's there designing parts and creating stuff. There's a big team of them, but the facility is huge. If you're in the Chicago area, well, if you're near the airport, and actually I got a story to tell you about the airport. But if you're near the airport, they're 20 minutes away.
Did they let you record while you were on site or anything like that?
No, I wasn't planning on a tour, to be honest. So I didn't have any gear with me, and I lost my phone, which I'll briefly bore you all about in a minute, just to get the rant out of my head. Terry and Margaret that run it are just great people, and when I go there for stuff that I need, stuff that so I should probably get a lot of it here already. Phil's got a lot of things like coil parts and flipper mechs and stuff like that. Yeah, of course, buy it from Phil. It'll be cheaper. It'll be because you're buying it locally. Same with David from Retro, but I went there for a couple. Because of the club, we buy in bulk. So I went there and bought. Have I got them? No, not they're in my car. I went there. They've got this new foot thing for games that sit on wood that clips in. At the club, what we're starting to see is because we move games, we're starting to mark the floor. So I bought a load of them to put on the game.
I've seen that. They've got like leg levelers with like caster feet that are made of nylon or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. But also got they got felt on the bottom of it, so you can't move it unless you want to move it.
Yeah.
Well, if you do want to move it, it's not like rubber feet where it just nothing. You just end up popping the feet off. So, well, at least I'm hoping that these work well because we need to do something. So I bought a load of them. Bought a load of key locks for games because we changed the locks in the games in the club. And I also bought the boards that I needed to fix my Metallica, which and you didn't hear, but I managed to blow 3 of the light boards of a Metallica when I
How
moved.
did you manage to do that?
The key, so I moved the game. The key from the coin door.
Oh dear, I'm feeling where that's going already.
It wedged on something. Turned the game on, bang.
Which short, basically.
Yeah, and a bit frustrating. Took me a while to figure out what had gone on. But anyway, the game's back up and running thanks to Pinball Life and the guys at Stern. Thank you very much for that. But yeah, Pinball Life, great. If you're visiting the Stern or JGP, don't forget to go visit those guys. Put an order in. They will have it ready.
I've spent more than enough with them recently. I
Yeah,
tell you that much.
I've always got. The thing I like about their website is they've got a cart where you can add stuff and save the cart.
Yes.
So you go back, and then when you've got like a decent wedge of stuff, okay, that's a decent. It's worth the shipping. Hit the button, boom.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the things I bought for the club is white. They do white armor.
Right.
So I'm going to put that on the jaws at the club because it's still in the horrible Stern acrylic feeling black stuff.
Right.
So with that, let's get back to the agenda. So, so I walked through the agenda, but were you given any interesting pinball Christmas gifts, Scott?
Because I've got a car, I've got a lot of weird car stuff, basically.
Of course. You got a lot of little minis and...
like mini badges and stuff that accent the car with, basically, that I haven't even done, I'm not going to lie.
That's awesome.
What about yourself?
I think I talked about my Secret Santa in the last one.
You did, yeah.
My esteemed wife got me another pinball book, which is good. Other than that, and Clive and Diane, who help us at the club, and Di runs the league. They got me an emergency pinball survival kit. And what was in this emergency pinball survival kit was 2 pot noodles.
Okay.
And it goes back to a day where we were at an event and we were starving, and I had nothing. There was nothing to eat but pot noodles. Anyway, thank you for that. It was my wife thought it was hilarious. That was good. And actually, I got I've got one for you as well, mate.
All right.
I'll need to send it over to you. I've got you a pin snake.
Oh, nice.
Because they're really cool.
Yeah, I remember Karaoke doing a review on that. It was quite a handy little tool.
It's good, but it's not as good as it needs to be. But it's not a fault of the device. It's just to get certain dirt off in the game, you need a bit of pressure, and it's hard to get that pressure at the front end of the snake. But it works really well. I use it to clean all my games.
Great.
So I'll get that over to you, mate, at some stage during the year. And then, so that was it basically. And then I covered my collection. What's new? Anything new? Any movers, shakers?
No, I mean, like as I said, I got Bride of Pinbot, which we talked about last time. Yeah. I think I'm probably gonna have to sell that already. I'm in two minds of whether to restore it and sell it, or just sell it as a project, because it's like I had to put some money into it to get it working, and I've got parts on order. So do I just sell them with all the parts? I'll figure out what I need to do. Long story short is we want to basically back on the house move again this year. So I'm looking at the space and I'm going, I can't really keep 14 games in this house. I mean, I had Ant basically having a go at me because he's selling his house at the moment. And he's like, you need to be in a position where there's no pins in the house and you can only have pins in the pin room and that's it. So for that to happen, I need to get rid of that behind me and I'm 3 more.
Well, if it helps, I've got some storage space here in Woking.
No, I appreciate that. I've got, so Mark, who I know from Pinball Info, I think his name is Jagman on the forum, if I remember right. He's got a workshop near me and he's offered up some space for me to dump some games there. So I said to him, you can play them. I don't really mind. I don't care. As long as he's happy to just take them for me. So that'll help.
Excellent.
But yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's the age-old trouble of you want more than you can store.
Absolutely. So, we're just talking about that. So I was talking about the fact we got the glass. I had a few people collecting it today.
Oh, yeah.
And, they came in. So I showed them the arcade and they're like, oh, this is awesome. I was like, I wish I bought it twice the size.
Yeah, I bet.
Really? I was like, yeah, it's just, this is a drug. Anyway, and there was a guy who's, is close to buying his first pin. The first game he wants to buy was Jurassic Park. And I was like, whoa. I said, that's a brave choice. He said, why? It's one of the hardest games. Yeah. I mean, it's a great game. I love it. In fact, mine is now back here. I'm actually broken the 20-pin rule. I'm on 21 in here at the moment.
No idea. Yeah,
So
okay.
Brought Jurassic Park back from the storage unit because I missed it. And this is the thing, having a storage unit like that where you put a few games away where you don't sell them, but they're not there, and you kind of, do I miss this?
Yeah.
Missed Jurassic Park, so I brought it back.
That's good in a way, isn't it? You really test whether or not you'd want it back if you got rid of it.
So, and right there, in the other game I missed, I don't have space for it, but I want to bring it back, is Avengers. But also I've got there Led Zeppelin and Star Trek and Mandalorian. I don't miss those 3 games right now.
No? Okay. Same with me with Star Trek, to be fair. I mean, I bought it twice and then I got rid of it, and I think, I think nostalgia was kind of kicking in because it was the first game I got.
I like it. It's a
good game.
But
it just gets pipped by other games these days for me.
Yeah, we're blessed with so many good games at the moment. Okay, let's pivot to the story that just never ends, American Pinball.
Right.
So David Fix has left the building.
Which is interesting, obviously, as I said, like last podcast, we discussed the fact that he was being a bit too candid about, I don't know, the business, so to speak, and you felt like it was an analogy used where someone started dissing their own products and then it killed their own product line.
Yeah. I mean, I was shocked by that because David's normally, I know David, I like him, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
I think he's bitten off more than he could chew on running pinball company. And the thing you've got to remember is when you're running a pinball company, it's not about building the themes you like. It's about building the themes people want to buy.
Definitely.
And, to hear that Barry O's made it out before, potentially Whitewater 2 or
Do you know how many they made as well? I do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. 37.
Are you sure they've made sold 37?
Okay, well, they've sold 37.
Yeah, okay. So I think they've definitely made a lot more than 37.
Maybe so.
When we were at the expo, it looked like they'd made 137.
Wow.
It was Barry.
That's a real sinker, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's not a terrible game. It's actually okay.
I remember you saying it shoots really well. I think what I would do if I was in that position they're in now, I would just sand it back, put a new playfield theme on, put new code in, and go with a different theme. Because obviously, it sounds like the playfield design's fine. It's just the theme is not.
Yeah, I just think I think if they're going to do that, what they'd be better to do is just cut the price, get rid of them, and then redo the layout with a new theme rather than. I think changing the games already about, I think, is probably too much cost.
Maybe
to do with it, and throwing good money after bad's never a good thing in my experience. I think what seems to be what American Pinball seem to be doing is position themselves as a contract manufacturer for other pinball companies,
which is not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea if they can get volume. Right? So, and let's think about who might use them. So you've got
Pinball would be a good candidate.
You've got the guys, Pinball Brothers, and potentially you've got someone like Raw Thrills, who are currently using CGC, but the sense I get is that they're frustrated about how long Pulp Fiction took to get out.
I think everybody is.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years. I mean, the ones in the UK, I think, have arrived and are being shipped out now. Yeah. The US LEs are getting out, so literally...
I think they're on 300 or something, isn't it? They hit a milestone.
Yeah, they've got 700 to make, so
that's a lot.
Still a long way to go.
It's funny, everyone keeps going on about, like, they're going to announce, like, Medieval Madness this year. I thought, no, they're not. They're going to be making 700 or more Pulp Fiction still. Like, they'll be through to the end of the year on that.
I think I'm going to disagree with it. I think they'll be done with Pulp Fiction by the end of the first half of the year.
Okay.
So the question,
it's a lot of games to go through. All right.
Yeah, but I think they've now got it nailed. I genuinely believe that. And if you look at this pace that they did Cactus on the LEs,
I look at Barrels of Fun, and they were quite open about their numbers, right? Their production numbers. which is really refreshing to see, actually, people showing how many they're pumping through. But I mean, even Turner was pretty honest. I just think CGC is somewhere between Turner and Barrels of Fun in terms of their production volumes. I just feel like realistically, they can't pump through more than maybe 100 in best case, 100 in a month, right? Which is nowhere. I don't think they're anywhere near that.
Well, if you believe that they started making the LEs in December, so the 2 months they've made 300 games.
I mean, 150. That's a lot. I didn't think they had the production facilities for that personally.
I think they definitely do. I mean, I
thought my idea was that
what the issue was is I think the one big. So I think they've got the assembly for that.
Yeah.
The struggle they've had is keeping the parts flowing in.
Well, that's why I thought maybe they had a backlog of games that were just sat there waiting because they were missing the toppers, and now they've got the space again. They can go back to the normal run. But that just feels like maybe they're ahead head start. But I suppose we'll find out.
I think that's true to some extent for sure. But look, I think if you go into pinball, someone like Play Mechanics, Raw Thrills, don't start in pinball unless they're going to be serious about it, right? They're a proper, well-oiled company. Their CFO is Josh Sharp, who knows one or two things about pinball. The guy who owns the company, has worked at Williams and knows pinball as well. So if they're going to do it, they're going to do it properly. But what they're not going to, I don't think they're going to put up with is 2 years to get their game out, because it just pisses people off. So
especially when they did such a polished promotion. Do you remember when it first came out?
Yeah, I mean, and they also they've built a pretty decent game. I know it's not for everyone, but I think the demand.
I think there wasn't a lot of like Tarantino kind of saying he wanted it to be like 70s-esque and stuff like that. Yeah, so I think like they followed the design requirements, right? I think what they've done is impressive. I still would have one. I think it looks great.
Yeah, it's a great game to play. It's not easy, but it's a fun game.
Yeah, the topper is still phenomenal.
The topper is awesome. It really is great. So that could be another customer for American Pinball. And then there's other. You got people like Dennis Nordman, who says he's got like 10 games designed.
Wow.
That could be a customer from. So if they can, look, and this is the thing about Stern. That I think it's the key to their survival and success. Stern keeps the factory running no matter what.
They definitely keep it flowing, don't they?
Yeah, and
factory tour, and it was like I'm still super impressed by even Spooky as well. They all have the same kind of like weird test beds where they have like a Spike 2 machine set up to go. They stick a playfield on it. They don't have to stick it inside a cabinet. They can do all the testing. So I just think that it's so well thought out, the whole process.
Yeah, and when you see it in real life, it's the size.
I saw that size of that playfield. That warehouse. It's insane. It's so big.
I mean, the Stern just is insane, and they have another building full of parts that isn't the one that I don't think they open that one to the public. But even Spooky's new place, I saw Carrie Hardy's video of it. It's huge now. They've got a decent sized place. They got a lot of building. I'm hoping that they pick up on QC because. So look, I think I'm hoping American Pinball 1, first of all, get the games out that they've got designed. Get someone who knows how to run a business that's passionate about pinball in there.
They need someone like Bug, right? I think like when you look at Bug and the way he presents, that's Spooky, that is, for anyone that doesn't, but he's very like excited about anything he's got to tell you about the game. He lives and breathes it. He's just like this, does that, and he gets so like energetic about it. I think you need that energy.
The thing, 100%. I think they need more than that. I think they need someone who knows how to build stuff, knows quality processes, knows how to procure stuff, knows. I'm not saying that Spooky don't know how to do that, but if you're going to go to CM, price and efficiency is going to start to really matter. So I think they kind of need someone that's been in the industry a while, has got a few bullet holes in the back from mistakes that they've made, etc., stuff that they've learned, and someone that can focus on two things: design a good game, build a good game, ship a good game. Those are the things that they need to. They need someone who knows how to do that in volume. I don't think that was David Fix. Actually, on the production side, I think David did a reasonable job on that because, they definitely lifted their production capability. It's still not.
I never think anybody had any complaint about the quality of
No,
their products, right?
again, quality as well. I think that came from their parent company,
Right.
where they had, a lot of processes in place. I've been to the American Pinball Factory. It's a decent sized investment. It's definitely bigger than I thought it would be based on what the mental model I had. But
Yeah.
look, I hope, and I mean, sadly, American Pinball have had to lay off a lot of people, including Steve Bowden and a few
They've
others.
hired them back, though, I heard, haven't they? Or some
Oh,
people come
okay.
back.
If that's news to me, it could be that I hope they have, because that would be great. But look, they've got a couple of games in bubbling in. I hope they get them out. Cuphead. I'm not sure about that as a theme, but who knows? If it's a good game, it could still.
I mean, it's a game that appeals to the masses. I just don't know if it appeals to the pinball enthusiasts. That's all.
Exactly, 100%. And then Whitewater 2. If they've really got
That was the one they should have done.
that one will just fly out. If it's a good game, if Dennis done a good job and they managed to build them well, will literally fly off the shelves.
Absolutely.
The Bally Williams crazies will be in there for their snort of Bally Williams cocaine.
Yeah.
And they will buy them in the truckloads. Let's hope. Moving on. I mean, we talked about Speak. Let's talk about Evil Dead. I don't know if you've seen any of the videos that they put out, but
I have. Man, the more I watch of it, the more I just go, I probably should have got this.
Well, you can be my.
Yeah, I'm your fallback guy if you don't like it.
My stunt double.
Yeah.
If they screw this up, I might be selling mine quickly. But I'm saying, I'm glad to be in on this. I mean, it's probably going to be 6 months before the game arrives. But
am I right by understanding, by the way, they put an acrylic top on their playfield, so it's like it's wood, then acrylic, then clear. It looks like there's a thicker layer on the top.
They definitely do something different, and it shows.
It makes the colours pop, I've noticed.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way they print them, I think Charlie, who helped set the company up, really nice guy.
Yeah.
His background was printing, and I think that's where they started. They started doing these prints, printing up playfields, and they've, their games always look really hoppy, colourful, right?
Yeah, it's like you ever notice that, like, when you get like an aftermarket like translite, and sometimes they do it on acrylic sheet instead of just normal translite, it looks so much more brighter.
100%.
I think that's what they've done. They've cottoned onto something there. It looks.
Yeah, I mean, and the game, the Scooby Doo look lovely. I mean, the artwork and stuff. They got Chris Franchi working for them full time, and
he's really good.
The Evil Dead artwork just looks staggeringly good.
Yeah.
I am excited about this. The gameplay looks great. The code's coming on brilliantly. Just get the quality assurance, quality control, whatever you want to call it. Just spooky. Just don't forget that. Because this could be your Godzilla.
Absolutely.
I think. So we're looking forward to that. Let's jump to the other big topic, and we'll obviously give, when my game arrives, we'll do a lot of coverage of it on the podcast.
Yeah,
we'll get it all over. Maybe we'll do a special.
I'd like that. I want to try it.
Yeah, well, sort of special Evil Dead when it arrives. Hopefully, I'm going to guess sometime July time frame.
Is that the projected time? Okay.
Well, I haven't been given one, but that would be my guess. I really hope it arrives.
Have you been given your number yet?
Pinfest. I haven't. I suspect Phil's got them, but I don't give a shit what my number is. It's like, whatever. So let's move on. So I mentioned in my monologue whilst Scott was hawking his pinball
3D printer
accoutrements, that I was in Chicago this week. I was invited by Stern to play the new Brian Eddy game, Dungeons and Dragons. And actually, before I get going, I've got 3 of these. If you're on YouTube, you'll see them. If you're not, you won't. But I've got 3. I've got the Pro Premium LE. What do they call these? Flyers. They're signed by Brian Eddy, Elizabeth Geese, and Dwight Sullivan. I'm going to put them on eBay for people to bid on them, and me and Scott are going to go buy Porsches with the money. No, we're not really. So all the money will go to National Autistic Society. So I'll post up the links when I posted them. They kindly signed them for me. As many of you know, I'm a fundraiser for autistic charities. So please bid high. Spend your money. These are real ones. They're not like the knockoffs that you get from other well-known criminals in the UK pinball scene. But yeah, please bid on them. But let's talk about the game. So and I'm going to start, Scott, with my apprehension of this game. So I got invited, and then Stern and did they did their usual. They do the trailer, then they do the bigger trailer. They do the little teaser, and it was kind of obvious. It was this debate: is it Kong? Is it Dungeons and Dragons? I was pretty sure it was going to be Dungeons and Dragons. They did the thing, and I was like, okay, I'm going to this thing. But I was very skeptical about this game. I was thinking it could be one of 3 or 4 things. It could be Game of Thrones on steroids, and you know how we loved Game of Thrones, with the complex rules. To this day, so I own a premium. I just never want to play it. There's something about it. I'm not a big Game of Thrones fan, first of all, so the theme does nothing for me.
I like Game of Thrones as a theme, but I feel like that one had, and again, not to steal what you're discussing here, but for me, it had a similar problem with the playfield. I don't really like the artwork, if I'm honest.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. I think it wasn't a great set of artwork, but for me, just the complexity in the rules just put me off. People would people who are playing it, they get 500 million points from 3 shots. I'm like, how did you do that? So that used to always put me off. Nonetheless, and then Mando, so I liked Mando, but it wasn't the Mandalorian I wanted. It was the rule set on it were not. It wasn't. I wanted more Mandalorian set pieces, and yeah, the music was great. It's not a terrible game. There was no move in Grogu, which I just think was a miss.
Yeah. That mod was really good. The guy
my game's got the mod, but it's not really interactive. On the flip side, though, Venom I loved. I think it's a great game. It gets a lot of shit. It's still the best on-location game, apparently. So it gets a lot of unfair criticism. And then Stranger Things, I think, is a great game.
I said to you before, it's still my favourite Stern, if I'm honest. I know everyone else has Godzilla up there, but for me, I'm more of a Bally Williams guy, so the simplistic kind of code nature just speaks to me more.
So I go into this, I totally agree. I go into this kind of skeptical, and also I think you are too, Scott, but I play RPGs. I've been playing them since I was 5.
Wife's a massive Baldur's Gate 3 fan, and I don't know, I probably would have. It's hard to say whether or not they should have done it on Baldur's Gate 3. It was a massive game, but I think, again, would pinball people even know what that is? It's hard to say.
Exactly. So you got theme question. You got how you break. I wrote this on a Pinside post. My biggest worry is how do you create a game that doesn't piss off the RPG folks that might be interested in it, and also doesn't piss off the pinball folks who might be interested in it. And I think I went into it with that mindset, thinking it's gonna be so hard to bring these two elements together. Anyway, so I flew out to Chicago, and just give me 1 second. Hold on, you'll need to ad lib for 1 second.
Yeah, sure. I think while you're doing whatever you're doing, I'm going to speak about the D&D elements of what I found a bit interesting. So for me, the artwork is a little bit weird because it said what Neil's saying there about trying to keep both sides happy. I felt like it was trying to appeal a little bit more to the fans of original D&D because the artwork is very niche orientated to me. It's got that kind of muddy, grainy look to it. And while I feel it's super detailed, because it's so dark and slightly muddy, I think a lot of those graphic details are lost. And you don't actually see a lot of it on the side art or on the playfield or even on the translite. That was my observation from what I could see, because again, it was every time they showed the game, they showed it in a dark room, so it was really hard to see it.
I actually mentioned that to them. So the room where they film, I don't know where they film the things, but I said to them, they need to try and get a bit more light on it. The room that the game's in, where we played it. It's kind of dark as well. There's some upsides to that because it makes the lights pop a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially if you're videoing. But overall, so Stern basically had 2 events on Tuesday. In the morning, they had distributors. In the afternoon, they had what they call the media group and other randos like myself. Although I think we fit in the media group because of the podcast, which
I was going to say the people I saw next to you were people I recognised, like the guy from Cool Toy, Zach from Flipping Out. Yeah, and obviously you had I don't know if did you had Retro Ralph there? I couldn't see
Ralph
him.
was there,
He was there, okay, yeah. And obviously Kerry Hardy. So
Kerry Hardy was there.
I'd say you're in the influencers group.
Yes, okay. I'm known for my shilling, of course.
Yes, always.
I mean, I literally, if I take my top off, I've got a Stern tattoo.
I'm sure it's there, mate. It's in your blood.
It's not really, but I think invite me. I'm like, okay, invite me, but like, if this is a shit game, guys, I'm gonna say it's a shit game, and they're like, no, that's cool.
So go on then. What's your thoughts on playing it?
So look, and these are on my YouTube channel where if I did a lot of video and actually the way I play it when I go to an event like that, I don't really want to try and make your mind up because I wouldn't let anyone make my mind up. What I try and do is record and ask questions to make things clear, right? So that if there's any doubts, on Pinball Info and Pinside, there's always a lot of doubts about things. So I try and clear the doubts up, right? So that you've got a level playing field of information and you can choose. But of course, look, if you're buying a pinball machine, play it before you buy it. It's that simple.
Yeah.
If you buy a game that you haven't played, you've got no one but yourself to blame if you don't like it. Basically, people are like, but if I don't buy it, they'll sell out. Then that's a risk you have to take. And by the way, games never sell out. They become available. There's never been a game that if I wanted it, I haven't been able to get it, right? And especially in today's
depends on the age of the game, but yeah.
But in today's market, game values are down.
They are.
No one's doing the old kind of hatchet job on buying one just to resell it. It just doesn't work anymore to do that. Which in some ways is a good thing, in other ways is not so good. But anyway, the flippers I'm talking about. So I'm a bit skeptical. Get there, and I'll come back to this. But Stern's factory was actually closed. They weren't actually making anything, which was a weird vibe. The place was almost like you could almost shoot a zombie movie there because it
I was going to ask,
just...
was it? I know this is random, right? No one's ever probably going to ask this. Was it cold in there?
It wasn't. It was definitely jumper material. You wouldn't be in there in a t-shirt, in my view.
I was going to say, because it's a massive area. Just how they heat that.
Yeah, I mean, I had a hoodie on, and normally I would take that off, but in the factory side, I didn't. In the other room, it was the kind of office side of the factory. It was warm and toasty, thank God, because Chicago was freezing. I mean, it was colder than here. Anyway, so I get to Stern. There's all these people here. It's good to see some of them. The Triple Drain guys were there. Carrie, loads of people. Doug from Cool Toy, Retro Ralph, a lot of great players. Vic, who did some really good video of the game. He brought this kind of mini rig that was actually quite cool. And I think I was the only person from outside the US there. So did a bit of Brian and Dwight kind of talked through the game for a little bit. I've recorded it verbatim. It's on my YouTube channel if you want to watch it. And they talked about the game, which is basically you are playing an RPG through the medium of pinball. You have a party of characters, and you can level those characters up. You can be injured, you can be hurt, you can all the things that are in an RPG.
I have a question for you then.
Yeah,
and I forgot to ask it because I gave you a sarcastic one instead when you asked. What I did want to ask you was, and hopefully you did maybe either discover it or someone else asked it, or maybe even you asked it.
Yeah.
As it's an RPG, it's technically it isn't technically, it is a cooperative game in its essence. Was there any ability to do cooperative play?
Yes, that's in the game.
It is in the game, right? No one's covered that. It's interesting to hear about that.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. Okay. So it's in the game, and not surprised because Dwight has been the kind of pioneer of cooperative play in Stern games.
Right. So
you can play as, you might have player 1 that's a level 3 wizard.
Yeah.
Player 2 that's a level 5 fighter, or I don't know the classes of the game, but usual RPG stuff, right?
Sure.
Player 3, player 4, blah, 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 right? And they make up your party. And when you're playing, they're rolling dices. So you play as a party. So, for example, if you're hitting a shot and you make the shot, you get points and you get the value of hitting that shot. Your other 3 members of your team, the game is rolling a dice for them to see if they got the shot. Right?
Oh, right.
And I was thinking, wow, this is cool. I really,
quite deep, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and let me come back to depth in a moment. But what is clear is that Dwight absolutely knows his RPG kind of D&D.
I heard he used to be a Dungeon Master stroke club organizer for Dungeons and Dragons. So
that would not surprise me. He knows this shit inside and out. Even Brian, I think, he's been in gaming for years, so he knows it. And they've literally built this RPG engine that runs this game.
See, that seems to be the saving grace for the game for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, the dragon's cool, the artwork, as I say, just lets it down a bit for me, and the theme may not scream amazing for everyone, but if it's got the right code on location, this could be killer.
And I'll be honest with you, that's kind of where my head is. So let me talk about the physicalness of the game, and I'll come back to code. But this is Brian Eddy's best layout of all of his games.
Even though I got to admit, though, I think Cooltoy even highlighted this. It very much looks like Labyrinth in terms of its shots.
I don't think the shots are as hard as Labyrinth.
Labyrinth, well, that's good to know, because Labyrinth shots are bloody hard.
Yeah,
super narrow. But it's definitely got, if you look at it, he did a side-by-side graphic, and I was like, it's got the same shoot over with the ball travels up behind the dragon, goes over. It was very similar to Labyrinth in that respect. It hops over into the left out orbit and then drains down.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing with pinball, right?
There's only so many different ways you can design
so look, they may have taken some inspiration from Labyrinth. They'd be crazy not to. There's certainly definitely things in Labyrinth I would change about the shots.
I'm just wondering, if you were a Labyrinth owner, coming at from that perspective, do you think there's enough of a different game there to say this is worthy of being in your collection if you've already got Labyrinth?
So here's what I think will happen. If you own Labyrinth, you'll buy this game and then sell your Labyrinth. That's my prediction.
All right. Okay.
That's my and look, Labyrinth for me is okay.
Sure.
But it's not a game that, I don't gravitate towards Labyrinth. I think Barrels of Fun did a great job of it. But the rules, I mean, let's be really clear though, shot-wise, there may not be much in it, although I definitely feel that the shots on D&D are much more accessible.
Okay.
And they've deliberately...
When you say that, are they wider, would you say? Is that it? Or
they're definitely wider. They're definitely easier to hit. Also, Brian was very specific, and he said that they'd done some things to make this game easier to play for certain non-pinball types. And one example of that is when the ball comes out to the upper flipper, they've done something to ensure the ball doesn't come out crazy fast. They've done it so they
down the travel
slowly, so you've got a chance to hit it, and that's definitely noticeable. Actually, for me, it was a bad thing because I kept flattening the ball too early. For some players, they were hitting the ball too late still, but they definitely said that they tried to make the game easier to play.
Interesting.
But I would say the thing I liked about this game is it feels like a bit of Shadow.
Okay.
And it feels...
I love Shadow. It's good.
Yeah, and it feels like a bit of Attack from Mars. And it feels like two of Brian Eddy's best games, Attack from Mars and Shadow, that they've kind of squeezed them together. And you've got the kind of flow of Shadow and the brutality of Attack from Mars.
Interesting.
So, Under the Dragon, you've got the dragon as a bash toy right away. You've also got Under the Dragon, you've got the stand-up targets that are brutal. You hit them, you're in trouble, basically. But to me, that plays to AFM. The flow plays to Shadow, and to some extent Venom a little bit as well. But I think by a million miles, this is Brian Eddy's best layout and design.
Nice. What, better than Medieval Madness?
better than Medieval Madness, better than AFM, better than Shadow.
Wow.
That's
strong praise.
This is a very, very good layout.
Considering how big Medieval Madness is, for everybody, that's...
Yeah, I mean, Medieval Madness is a combination of the game and the rules and the theme. I was
going to ask you about this because Brian, at least back in the 90s, built a lot of humour into his games. I didn't get a feeling there was much humour in this, or just describe it for me. Were they funny call-outs or anything like that?
There are, but Dwight was honest about this. On the sound side, they hadn't done a huge amount of work.
Okay.
So they got some of the call-outs in more for the launch, but he said, look, on the sound and call-out side, we got a load of great stuff. They've got an amazing cast. Like, they got Michael Dorn from Star Trek.
Yeah, he's Worf, right?
But yeah, he's Worf. They've got an amazing cast, and they've got a lot of funny stuff. They just haven't got it set up right. And that definitely shows. I think there's a few people, at the event, a few things I've read that says, the call-outs are an issue. I just think give it time, guys. I think they will come. Put it this way, I hope they have, because having a cast like that and not, get out, not with people thinking it's good for call-outs would be a travesty in my view.
Yeah.
So, and then let's talk. The two or three things that are on the playfield. The dragon on the LE is just epic. It is stunning. The
it's like the T-Rex on steroids, from what I can see. That thing's massive.
Yeah, the flow of it is beautiful. It blocks shots. It's very interactive, and I like it. It's a very well done mech. You can't have a game Dungeons and Dragons without a dragon, right? You just can't. What do they call it? The cube. I forget what they call it.
Gelatinous cube.
The gelatinous cube. Yeah, you've become stuck in a gelatinous cube.
That cube, like that needs to be a much more delivery. It's so deadpan.
Yes,
get him out of the gelatinous cube. It's like, do some delivery with that. Even if you just say it in a comedic fashion. Like, I know people didn't like the film that came out recently, but that had humor in it, and I feel like that's what Dungeons and Dragons should be. It should be funny.
I think that will come. I genuinely got the sense that that's going to come. It's not there. I agree. The gelatinous cube mech is cool as hell, though. It's very cool. It's a double-sided magnet that can lock 4 balls.
Yeah, that is very clever.
The way they've built and designed that is awesome. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I didn't get a chance to experience it hugely.
I'm more impressed that's in the Pro.
Well, let me come to the Pro and Premium and LE actually in a sec. And then you've got the pop-up dungeon thing. I don't know what to call it, but
it's like half buck, isn't it? It doesn't have I felt like it could have done with being a subway, personally.
I definitely agree with you on that. I think I think opportunity missed there. But the other thing is the shield, which is actually really well done.
Feels like the what do they call it? The anti-gambling mech that we used to have back in the day around the Lord of the Rings era.
Well, what do you call it? The skill posts.
Skill post, yeah, it's a skill post.
To some extent, it's like that, but you've got to earn the shield, right?
Yeah.
Or your character.
But it's funny how when you think about it, back then that was being used to prove it wasn't a gambling machine. Now it's being used as a game mechanic.
It's mad. Yeah, so actually using the shield's quite hard. It reminds me of Magnasave on Black Knight.
Well, one person told me, I think was it Kerry Hardy? I can't remember who was watching. Someone said they went to press it, and they pressed and held it.
Yeah.
I think it was Richard Ralph, actually. And he said when you press and held it, it doesn't activate. You have to tap it. So you have to tap the action button. Yeah,
press and hold does something else.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was, but actually the thing I started to do with it was I'd get the ball on flipper, I'd hit the shield, then I would go for the risky shots under the dragon.
Yeah, makes sense.
And it was glorious. I mean, it was hard to lose the ball. And I think tournament-wise, I think my first view is if I'm putting this in a tournament, I'm disabling the shield. I just think it will make
it brutal.
It'll make the game impossible to lose the ball. Basically, and there's a couple of long games. You fight a dragon, it's fun. The dragon. So I mean, and the thing, and Dwight warned us about this, and it was definitely true. So when you start on the LE Premium, when you start dragging multi-ball, you literally have 4 balls in the playfield almost instantly. I mean, they're there, and you're like, holy shit. I really liked that. I thought that was a real kind of moment of pinball fun.
I'm worried about the condition of the playfield. Wasn't there like 6 balls on the playfield at one point? I saw
100%.
crazy.
That definitely worries me as well. It's one of the things to concern about. On the Pro, it launches the balls from the trough, so it's usual stuff. But let me just talk about. There's a lot to talk about Premium Pro LE.
Yeah.
Look, only buy the LE if you're an idiot. I'm an idiot. I'll buy it. Right. Premium or Pro. I actually think this is one of those games.
So you've actually just said you're going to buy an LE then,
I ordered an LE off the.
Okay.
So I ordered an LE off the back of the second video. I thought, nah, this looks good. The flow in the game. If a game's flowy, I tend to like it.
Yeah.
I've ordered the game, and which reminds me, I need to send Phil the money. Sorry, Phil. The other. So I would say that the Pro versus Premium debate is very much, it reminds me of Jurassic Park. And I have to say, if you want this game, look, if you want the cool dragon, for sure buy the Premium. But the gameplay between Pro and Premium, is it worth $3-4 grand? No, definitely not.
I felt like you get a really good value proposition on the Pro on this one.
Yeah, the Pro's got everything in it. The dragon though, and again, there's a video on my YouTube channel that illustrates this. So instead of this nice, swooping, lovely dragon, the dragon's more like a bit of a bobblehead where it goes. That's all it does. And when you've seen that, it's hard to unsee it. So I noticed this because I was standing watching Joel from Triple Drain play, and I noticed this. I was like,
it's like a chicken head.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's kind of like that. And I'm doing this on YouTube, but people.
But yeah, just so you understand it, it's like he's bobbing his head like a chicken.
Bobbing my head like I'm bobbing for apples or something. And you kind of, it's not terrible. Don't get me wrong, but when you compare the two, when you've seen the two side by side, one of them
one loses the magic then,
basically, right? So, but in terms of the gameplay, in terms of the RPG elements, they're all the same, right?
Yeah. Because I know the dungeon crawl vuck is missing, but you just shoot up the spinner and it shoots into a vuck anyway, and then it traps the ball. I mean,
this is the kind of weird thing is there's inline vucks, which I was like, what? Inline scoops? No, that doesn't make sense to me.
It's weird, isn't it? Yeah.
It seems to work. The whole D&D bit is really well done. If you've played a D&D, you'll feel at home with this. If you played an RPG, you'll feel at home with this. The whole notion of you've got a party, you can't die. I mean, this is the thing that Dwight said, and it's worth watching the video of him talk about it.
Right.
He's got this pinball wins sort of aspect, which is, if we need to do something, and if it clashes with how pinball works, then we're not going to do it. If it breaks something fundamental about pinball, they won't do it. They'll stick to something that works for pinball. And I think that comes shining through on how this game plays.
Right.
Because you get into the mode shot, you select a mode, then you've got a kind of mission to do, and you see the thing you're trying to kill or the thing you're trying to do, and you're hitting the shots, you score the shot, and your players roll the dice. It's coolly done. And then they've got an insane number of modes.
Yeah.
And there's 3 endings to the game. So
yeah, I heard about that. Or 3 wizard modes, is it, or 3 endings?
No, 3 endings.
Okay.
Which I guess will be 3 wizard modes. I'm assuming, but
okay, the same thing.
You can effectively play a different story.
I tell you what, I would have liked to see. That doesn't mean they have to do it. I know you say the whole thing can't die. It doesn't really work with pinball, but I would have liked to have seen it in the wizard mode. That if you hadn't got whatever you needed to get done in a timer, that then you fail the wizard mode. And that you failed. You don't say you die, but you failed. I still think there should be a penalty for failure.
So I do think that's going to be in the wizard mode.
Oh, okay, cool.
So they haven't. I think things like that, where like people are saying, well, it's really easy to kill the dragon. I was like, how have you killed the dragon? Well, I got Dragon Multi-Ball. I got Super Jackpot. Yeah, all you did was annoy the dragon. It's not dead.
Yeah.
It will come back. And I think those are aspects of the story. And Dwight was very careful not to spoil the story, which I appreciate, actually.
That's cool.
So, and the discussion, so the question I asked and it came in from one of the Texas gang that I hang out with on WhatsApp, where we're going to Texas Pinball Festival. Question was, how complex is this code? So I asked, the question I put to Dwight was, Dwight, if I take Game of Thrones and I take Venom, where does the code for this game sit on that scale? And his reply was, it's the most ambitious code that I've ever written.
Dwarfs them, probably.
Yeah, both of them. So, and I was like, okay, that's cool. But again, this is before I'd actually played the game, so my alarm bells were ringing loudly. I'm thinking, oh shit, this is going to be brutally difficult.
Too complicated to figure out, kind of thing.
Yeah, but honestly, that just isn't the case. The gameplay is fully kind of illustrated, and
I think you can definitely have a complicated game. I think what you need to do is show to the user what you need to do.
Exactly. So look, there's no question. This is a more complex game than Deadpool, right? For sure. And even Venom. But the game is signposting you on what you have to do and where you have to do it. And as you progress, as your characters progress, of course, the thing that RPGs brought to, and I still play it, in fact. I played an RPG when I was 6 called Wizardry on the Apple II. They've just re-released it actually on Switch and other platforms, which I highly recommend it if you like RPGs. This one's awesome, and you can one of the things that the Wizardry called out was the first game you can save. Of course, you can save your pinball game.
Yeah, how does that work then? How do you save your progress?
So your program again, this is where pinball wins. You kind of never really die. What happens is you get sent back to the kind of tavern and you're licking your wounds, right? But it stores your progress. So if you level up,
so this is like Dark Souls kind of attitude.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know
the campfire kind of attitude.
I don't know Dark Souls super well, but similar. But in effect, if you've got a level 5, if you're a level 5 wizard, it'll save that you're a level 5 wizard. And that works really well. But also, they've called it One Shot, which I think is a kind of a name they need to rethink for a variety of reasons. But if you hold down the button whilst you're selecting the direction, you get a chance to select different routes, etc.
Yeah.
Or different characters when you first start up. If you hold down the button, it deducts all your progress. So you go back to level 1.
There's like a fresh start button sort of thing. Yeah.
And then the second thing is, the second question that came up is, what if my game's offline? Well, if your game's offline, then every time you hit the start button, it's a random mission. You've got no previous experience.
How does it work with the procedural generation of the dungeon? Is that something that's then downloaded each week, or is it just randomly to each game? I mean, what I'm trying to get at, I suppose, is if, let's say, for instance, me and you both had Dungeons and Dragons, and we hit the next week, and I then said to you, oh yeah, but if you go right, left, and left, you'll get this. So then, is that going to be the same for you, or is it random? Is it random to your game?
No, it's the same for everybody.
Okay.
And I think that's.
What I'm saying is it going to be the exact same dungeon for you, or will yours randomly generate to be different to mine?
No, it's going to be the same dungeons for everybody that's connected to Insider.
Okay, so you could, I mean, it depends if people want to cooperate like that. And
exactly. But this is the thing. I mean, this is kind of follow on what some of the online D&D games are doing.
Yeah.
Which is to keep it consistent. If you're not online, every dungeon's random. So how they do the swap? Actually, I asked Dwight directly about that. He wouldn't give it away how it works. My take is that all the details for each of the dungeons are on the game, and Insider Connect is just signaling it to change. He wouldn't talk about how they did that.
I mean, he did say it was procedurally generated, so I'm wondering if it just uses some sort of hex code, and then that dictates what map is pulled or something like that.
Yeah, it'd be something simple, I think. But he seemed quite coy about it, I've done something cool.
Well, to be fair to him, he has. I mean, I think the one thing I like about this game, let's say, it's saving grace, is to me is what they're doing with the code.
Yeah.
Like, if it didn't have all that, I wouldn't be as excited to play it.
No, absolutely. Sorry, I'm just grabbing a drink.
That's right.
Whilst my camera pans around like a crazy person.
Yeah, it was tracking you crazily there.
So, let me fix that. So it is the RPG. I went in there thinking this RPG bit's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
That was my belief. It's not. It's fantastic.
Great. It's quite impressive considering it's early code as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. They've got work to do on that code. 1 second, Scott, because that's going to be my British gas guy.
That's right.
Hi, Neil speaking.
So basically, while he's talking to British Gas, I'll carry on. But yeah, I mean, the procedure generation on the maps, I think, is going to be its saving grace. It sounds like obviously they need to do a lot with the code, but I feel like the game itself is definitely in a step where people would hopefully play on location and say, "Oh, I want to play that again."
So I need 5 minutes because it's a guy collecting glass.
Go for it.
Do you want to just fill in
I
for
will
a
carry
bit?
on.
And
Yep. I will talk about my homebrew, and then
yeah, good idea.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, just to wrap up quickly with the D&D then. So I think from my perspective, I believe it's going to be at the show EAG, which basically is an arcade expo in the UK, and that's going to be next week. I've booked a ticket for myself and for my wife, although I'm technically at work that day, so I don't think I'm going to be able to escape out of the office, but she's going to join me on the train at least, and then head off to Excel in London. She'll hopefully then be able to try it on site and give me any feedback on how she feels it plays. I'm not sure what edition of the game is going to be there, but it sounds like to me, even if we get to try the Pro, we're going to get to be able to try out the majority of what's on offer, obviously minus the Dragon. So from my perspective anyway, that's my view on the game. Obviously I haven't played it. I do feel like it's intrigued me. I do want to try it. I'm hoping that next week when my wife tries it, she feels like it's positive and it's something that then we might want to buy. But again, it comes back to the space issue. So on to my homebrew news then, while Neil deals with an errand. So at the moment, I've progressed quite far. I've actually announced on the Strictly Custom Pinballs Facebook group my design, and it's been received quite positively. I think I've just shy of 100 likes, which is pretty good. The game itself has been quite a bit of torture to put together, if I'm honest with you. It's sitting there in the background for those of you that are on the watching it via video. But basically, I've had to source the ramp from Ramp-O-Matic, which is basically a Data East Jurassic Park ramp. I actually bought a Black Friday set from him, which he designs for homebrewers. And he does it, by the sounds of it, every year. And it'll be like effectively a bunch of reject ramps that don't fit the bill for his view of what's considered a quality ramp. So that could be like defects in the vac mold process. It could be that during the drilling phase, he ended up scuffing it or scratching it. Something of that ilk that would make it be considered a second. He'll then box all those ramps up. So I got just shy of like 12 or 13 ramps in a box sent to me. And out of all of those 13, one ticked the box, which was the Jurassic Park ramp. So for those that don't know Jurassic Park from the Data East era, it's got a rather large right to left ramp that loops basically around an orbit effectively and back down, and then it splits into like a fork where it then works via a diverter to allow for the ball to either return to the left in-lane slingshot or the right in-lane slingshot. Similar to that of like Adam's Family, for those that haven't ever seen a Jurassic Park ramp, but it's very similar to that. Finding the parts for it was the more difficult part. I had to kind of fabricate print brackets just to get it to work. I have managed to source some of the metal protectors that I needed to keep the ramp from getting destroyed. I had to buy parts from all over the joint. The other elements I used, so I've borrowed a lot of design ideas from Getaway. I actually had a playfield that was supplied to me with a lot of the wire guides, or if you want to call it steel ball guides, on the playfield. And it also had the up-down ramp mechanism, not the actual assembly that sits behind it, like the coils and the pivot and the armature and stuff like that, but the actual top side mechanism that allows the ramp to go up and down. And obviously that isn't made anymore, and it gave me an idea thinking, I could actually reuse this in my game. So I've got a multitude of different parts from different games that have basically been brought together to make one. So I've got parts from Bram Stoker's Dracula, I've got parts from Getaway, I've got parts from Jurassic Park, as I mentioned. And on top of that, and for those that can see it, so there's a wire form there that's basically at the moment in a raw state. That was made by Avid Creations. For those that don't know it, his name is David Morrill, lives in Australia. Great guy, helped me out on my first custom set of ramps that I made for my Cyberpunk game. He's done something similar for me where he's got a getaway from a friend of his, taken that ramp wire form, I should say, and customized it so that it can fit into the Jurassic Park Data East wireform return that I've also had made by him. So effectively 2 wireforms converging into one. He's done an excellent job of it, and he did it over Christmas for me, which was great because then I could then get to work with building the game. It's got to a position actually where the whitewood is basically finished. I've got all the mechs on there, including building the assembly that does the up-down lifting of the ramp for the rear of the getaway up-down ramp. That was incredibly hard to source parts for. No one sells the assembly in its entirety anymore. What I had to do was basically open up the schematics on the manual, source every part number, and there's like 20 different parts, I think, that made that assembly. And I had to source it across 3 different suppliers. So at the beginning of the podcast, we talked about Pinball Life, sourced some parts from them, sourced parts from Planetary Pinball, sourced parts from Pinball Center, that's based in Europe. It's basically been a lot of international shipping and making sure and hoping that stuff doesn't get lost. Because whatever reason, in England, in the UK, we have a very high risk of parts getting lost. At least I do. I've had more than my fair share of parts going missing, getting lost in the shipment center. I've had stuff that meant to go to the UK and someone's mistaken Swindon for the town that I live in for the word Sweden, and it's gone to Sweden instead. Just crazy stuff like that I've had happen. But yeah, I mean, got all the parts together. I've got into a position where everything's basically set out and it's working. It took a lot of drilling, a lot of patience, a lot of measuring multiple times. I even made my own custom diverter mech because the diverter mech I wanted to use would typically sit underneath the playfield. But there is, because I've gone with a Bally-Williams playfield support design, that's meant that the post, so the diverter rod, normally has to go through the playfield to then be mounted underneath, basically via a pivot. That just wouldn't fit in this design because the support rail that features on Williams and Bally's machines, they use a rather long piece of metal that basically has like a spring at the end, and it kind of like has this kind of like pivot gate that catches into the hinges inside the cabinet when you want to lift it up to stop it from falling off and obviously collapsing into the bottom of the cabinet. It takes up a lot of space, and it sits directly where the diverter rod would need to go. So I had to get inventive and 3D print my own kind of like diverter plate and fit it so that it just sneaks underneath the ramp. Thankfully it does. I've got away with it. I now need to get into a position now where, I build like an enclosure around it. I'm thinking of ideas of what I do with that and probably make it into like what I call a generator room. I was also putting down the inserts this morning. So plotting those out to map out the playfield and show what areas I want to do in terms of like, game modes and that. I've got like 7 modes in total. So there's like 6 standard modes and a wizard mode basically plotted out already. I have the sequences already plotted out in video, and I've got callouts ready. So it's taking a lot of shape rather quickly now. I'm at a position where I'll be doing the wiring and getting the game what they were supposed to call flipping soon. That in itself is obviously going to be a big learning curve for me. It's using the fast components, so fast pinball. I believe it's based on Mission Pinball framework, so I have to get my head around all the coding logic around that. Wiring logic, obviously, and how it's built together in terms of electricals. It's definitely going to be a bit of a learning curve, but I'm fairly confident I can get on with it. My wife is currently finishing up a playfield for someone. Can't really talk about the theme yet because I don't think she's allowed to talk about it yet because it hasn't been announced. But when that does get finished up and done, she'll then be working on my artwork. And hopefully then I'll be in a position where my playfield will have all its artwork done, and then we can send it off for final production and get it sent out and as a finished product. So I'm still on target for completing it this year.
And that'll be at Pinfest, right?
Hopefully. It'll be tight. I'm not going to lie. It may end up going to...
No pressure.
Yeah, well, I'm toying with the idea to take it to Texas Pinball Festival next year instead.
Ah, cool. That would be awesome. Although it's not cheap to get a pinball shipped.
I know it's not. No, I've been working with David at Retro Arcade to help me out with that. But
cool.
Yeah, I was just walking them through the design. You just finished up. Just came back as I finished up, so that's good.
Yeah. So look, I was someone else getting glass because I'm out for a couple of weeks, and so everyone's kind of grabbing it today. Let me just quickly finish on D&D.
Yeah, sure.
I like the game. I think it's going to be a good, fun, great. In fact, I think it's going to be a great game. It's probably not for everyone though. If you're someone who likes kind of playing the rules, this might not be for you because you're gonna have to think differently. Shooting wise, it's great. If you're a flow kind of, risk reward, you're gonna love this game in my view. I part of me kind of feels like Stern could have a surprise big hit on their hands. The overwhelming feedback, actually, until yesterday, was very positive about the game. Couple of minor things. Actually, Carrie's been a bit more. He hasn't been negative, but he's like, "Oh, there's no wow moments in it," and I don't know if I agree with him on that. Fighting the dragon is a wow moment. The cube is.
There's enough balls on the ground to make it a bit more of like a hectic game, isn't it?
And the shots themselves, there's a couple of loop shots that I thought that's a great shot to shoot. So
sure,
I get where he's coming from. He also talked about stuck balls, and I have to say, I don't know when that happened. Maybe when I was eating pizza or something, but I don't remember a lot of stuck balls on the game. In fact, I don't remember any. I definitely remember pulling the glass off because that's the sort of thing I would remember. But if there's stuff like that, I'm pretty sure Stern will.
I think he mentioned something like it was just like ball search wasn't picking the ball up sometimes.
So ball search hasn't been coded into the game. That's right. So if it needed
that's
a ball,
how early doors it is.
That's why it didn't work. I don't know. It seems weird.
Was this the game, by the way, that was meant to come out when X-Men was announced? Was that the idea? Was this something else?
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
So John Borg was working on a game that they cancelled.
They cancelled it. Okay.
Yeah, I think that was Indiana Jones. I don't know why they've cancelled it.
Licensing costs, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know about licensing costs, but maybe licensing issues. Maybe they can't get.
Maybe they had to do it based on the Dial of Destiny, which I don't know about you. It's
terrible.
Yeah.
What a way to screw a great. They should have just left it in the trilogies.
Absolutely, just like every Disney property. No offense, but there we go.
After 3, they've run out of ideas. They need new IP. But I think it's I go play it, but I loved it. I'm looking forward to getting it and kick out. And actually, just one other thing. Also, those with X-Men, Phil sent these out. The X-Men.
Oh, is this the shooter kit?
The fix kit. It's going upside down. I
know it's quite involved, isn't it? You've got to get like this plastic that guides the ball a bit better.
I spoke to Cal about it. I think it's basically. I think there's this bit of this ramp transition where the ball gets slowed down.
Right.
And I was talking to George Gomez about it, and what's frustrating for him is like the first 10 games get built by the kind of mechanical team that designed the game.
Right.
Which is different from the factory floor. And I think they've learned a lesson about, how do they do the QA on something that's so precise. I mean,
that's what I was going to say, that I've noticed this with every manufacturer. You can't automate pinball, at least no one's found a way to do it. So it's all manual. So those little kind of millimeters here and there, it makes a massive difference when I'm putting that thing together. I tell you, like 1 millimeter to the left means the difference between the ball draining or hitting the flipper. Like it's like those kind of tolerances I could see being an absolute nightmare for a game that's got very tight tolerances.
100%. But yeah, look, I'm looking forward to playing. Scott's been sending me some photos and videos of the Homebrew. I'm looking forward to playing it and seeing it, and we'll
coding it sooner or later.
Yeah, let's have a chat about it. I don't know if I'm good enough for making rules, but we can have a bit of fun with that for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's move on. And actually, we've only got a couple of things to cover now. First of all, the Twippies.
Yes. They're back.
Oh my God, Scott, we've been nominated, despite the fact that we don't really want to be seen as mainstream. I feel like we're going to have to do something to be.
It's nice to be nominated, but it really doesn't. I don't. It's like I'm not Carrie Hardy. I'm not Retro Ralph. I just do this because it's fun.
I mean, look, there's some. Yeah, I mean that's it. Look, and some really great podcasters out there that put in a huge effort.
Yeah.
Slam Till, Zach Many's Pinball Show.
Yeah, they put so much effort into what they do, right?
Huge effort. I mean, we literally, to record this, I pinged Scott this morning saying, hey, let's do a podcast. It's like, yeah, and then like, what are we talking about? 5 minutes, and then we're good to go, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the only reason we hadn't have any technical issues is because I haven't broke it since, I haven't actually done anything on this machine since the last podcast. But we really appreciate being nominated.
Definitely, yeah.
It's an honour in itself. We do this because we love pinball. And we've Scott and I have got two perspectives on the
Yeah, he's Diet Coke and I'm Pepsi Max.
Yeah. I'm the best seller and I taste great, and Scott's the opposite. I'm
the underdog.
Yes, you're the Michael Jackson to my Christmas Santa. That's the only advert.
Nothing wrong with Michael Jackson.
No, absolutely.
Do you know what? I know, like, quick one there. I would love a Michael Jackson pin.
Me,
I just don't think they'd ever do it.
Sign me up. I am in.
Yeah, I would have that.
A game that played Billie Jean.
Yeah.
I am in. I mean, I am. That if that game came out and it was $30,000, I'm buying it. I mean, I
would make money happen for that.
I would absolutely have it. I don't know if you ever saw Moonwalking.
Yeah.
So I played that in Boston. It was in one of the arcades in Boston. Well, actually, Cambridge more than Boston, but it was really well done.
It was when I first started looking at pinball, because I was
someone
made a Michael Jackson pin. I was really surprised no one had.
Yeah.
Obviously back before all the controversy, so the way I'm pronouncing it right. But yeah, back before that, it would have thought he would have been a logical thing, because I've seen him play pinball as well.
Yeah, he's I think he was definitely a pinball player. But look, we can but dream, Scott. We can but dream.
Yeah.
I think that would be a massive game, though. And look, in America, if you can buy a gun, you can buy a Michael Jackson pin. That's my take on it. So look, Twippies, thanks very much. I mean, please. The other thing is, I want to shout out to a couple of Brits who've been nominated. The first one is hold on, that might be British Gas. 1 second. Okay. The first one I want to shout out to is Stumbler, and the second one is Paul Boucher and Mojo Mods. They're both nominated. Please vote for them. They are for sure worthy of winning.
Let's face it, I think, to be honest with you, they've elevated the pinball mod game.
Give me 1 minute, Scott. Sorry,
sure.
1 second.
But yeah, I was going to say, like, from their perspective, I think they really have put pinball mods in the UK on the map, and the quality of work that they put into their mods is second to none. I mean, the situations where I've bought mods in the past where I'm just a bit like, you don't get any instructions, you put it together and effectively you're like, the print quality is not good, or something's missing, or it's just not entirely obvious how it gets put together. The packaging from start to finish in terms of like how to put it together, it's clear instructions, it's well made, it's going to last. I think this is exactly how mods need to be. They always need to be in a position where I think anybody needs to learn lessons from how they do stuff, basically. It's just like, if you're going to charge good money for what you're doing, back it up by putting decent levels of documentation, decent levels of quality in terms of packaging and in terms of the product. Because these guys, for me, set the bar in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, if I quickly just turn my camera, see if I can get it. That's the updated Godzilla from Mojo Mod. It's absolutely amazing. Very well done.
I think the beauty of it is that, I think even Davey said it at one point, if it looks like it was meant to be in the game, you've done well. Something like that.
Exactly. And all his, I mean, the Tokyo, he's got a load of other mods. The Foo Fighters Area 51 mod, excellent.
Yeah.
I hope they win. And look, we'd love for you to vote for us, but don't feel that you have to.
No. Don't worry about it. We'll only sleep.
And
nice to get a nomination. That's all, really. I think we'll leave it at that.
It's nice to be recognised for sure. A couple of folks at the event were talking about the podcast, which was nice to see. So I think,
you know what I found impressive actually is people like even Carrie Hardy knows who I am, and I speak to him a lot on Facebook now. It's like it's just weird because I know we put ourselves out there and we're obviously in the public eye, quote unquote, by being on these things, but you just don't really go, well, do you actually know who I am? It's weird. I mean, I had it even when I went to Pinfest. People would just walk up to me and they go, "Oh, hi, Scott." I'd be like,
Who are you?
I don't know you. You obviously know me.
I tell you, it's happened to me a few times. It used to happen to me at work, actually, because I kind of, when you're senior man, you're like, people come up and say, talk to you for like 10 minutes. And you walk on and it's like, who's that? I was like, got no idea. It's kind of, you don't want to, I've actually started asking people who they are, which I avoided because I didn't want to piss them off that, oh, he doesn't even know who the fuck I am. What sort of boss is he? But I think it's worse not to ask.
It's awkward, isn't it? When you just say, "Hey, man," it's their name.
How you doing, dude? It's long time for me. How's the family? And you're just bullshitting, right?
Yeah.
A friend of mine, John, who I used to work with, he used to say, "Neil, enter human, exit human." And I said, "John, I love that, mate, but that means I just get 20 minutes of you and your dog when all I want to do is ask you what the status of the project is." Right, with that, I think so events and tournaments, I think I've covered a little bit of that when Scott was away. We got Indus coming up, we got Pinball at the Beach, we got the UK League, we got the February Fantastico at the Pinball Republic in a couple of weeks' time. Obviously, we've got Phil from Pinball Heaven arranging a show in the near future. He's been posting about that on Pinball Info. And then probably the big thing is Texas Pinball Festival. There's a big group of Brits going. I think it's going to be a right old laugh. Unfortunately, Dave Bishop isn't going, so no one's going to be
ducking for cover.
No one's going to be shot, killed, or maimed, unfortunately, because Dave was.
Go on, we should do this quick. What's your predictions for games, for new titles?
Well, I think you got to believe Jersey Jack have Harry Potter there, right? You got to believe that. I doubt that. Actually, in a normal world, that's what you should believe. I don't think they will. I think they'll save it for Expo.
Okay.
In which case, I think, given it's local for them, you got to believe Barrels of Fun will have their new game there.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine. And you think it's Fifth Element?
I hope it is. But at the same time, I don't, because I don't want to make room and spend money. But there we go. Yeah.
I think it's unlikely we'll have anything new from Stern, given
they've done it right. Yeah,
just done it. I mean, it's possible because they did get Foo Fighters out one year.
I don't think Spooky will announce anything because they've done Evil Dead, right?
Okay, no, but it'll be there to play, which is
what everybody wants, right?
First time. American Pinball, who the fuck knows what's going to come out there? But you got to think they'll have Cuphead that event.
Yeah.
CGC, might they have a Halo there?
Do you think Predetti will have their release?
Totan, I hope so. Actually, I also have to give some Predetti some sugar, as Bruce Campbell would say. We had Funhouse in the UK Open, and it just worked. It was nice. We had one minor thing with it, no worse than any other game, but it was rock solid. And I have to say, I was surprised about that. And I'm actually tempted to try and get one to put in the club because it's a game that people like. But
I think what I like about what they've done is, I mean, take Funhouse aside, I like the fact the standard model is like about $7,000. It's like the price of a Pro.
Yeah.
If they do a Totan at that money, I'll buy it.
Yeah, I'll sell it hotcakes. Unfortunately, it's a freaking terrible game.
I know you hate it, but I'm a sucker for Papa Duke games.
Shoot the genie.
But hopefully they do code update like they do with Funhouse, right?
Yeah, I mean, if they can do something to make it more exciting to play than other than just shooting the genie.
Speaking of code updates, quickly, I should ask, Cactus Canyon, is that coming along now?
So the last rumor I heard, it's mid this year. So Josh is definitely working on it. I think it's getting there, but I think it's still 6 months away, probably. Okay. I'm quite happy to wait for that because I think it'll be worth waiting for. Other code updates, there's a new Metallica update. Definitely get that because it fixes a bug.
Well, so hopefully we get ours next week.
Fixes a sound thing. You guys are in for such a treat, man. You really are. I'm all jealous of you.
I was looking in the background on yours, mate, and I still think the best animated DMD I've seen by far.
Yeah,
it's the animation they've just done is just so impressive.
I managed to. I'm going to grab this. I managed to get the topper for it while I was in the US as well.
Yeah, it's a shame what it costs.
I know it's stupid money for. And actually, it feels too small for the game. They should have made it bigger, but.
Yeah, when you look at it against that James Bond thing, that's massive.
Yes, and yeah, it's kind of weird. And there's a code update coming for Pulp Fiction that fixes a couple of bugs. That I was.
Okay.
And with that, Scott, I think we might have landed the ship.
Hooray!
I think we might have.
We do apologise for both of us jumping in and out, but it is a busy day for us. So
yeah, sorry. And the reason, part of the reason we're doing, when we could have waited, but and do it our normal time. Part of the reason we're doing this is I'm out of the country for 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. So
wow.
I don't know if I will be around. But look, I'm really excited. We've got a great kickoff to the pinball year with D&D. I think it's going to be a really exciting year for pinball. And I'm upbeat and ready for it, basically.
Nice.
And all that remains to be said is to thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you probably sometime in February, if not before. But if you've got any questions, the best place to talk to us is on our Facebook page, the Great British Pinball Podcast. And we will see you next month. Scott, it's a pleasure as always.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.